And I think that's a fairly healthy way of thinking about culture. Similarly, Makate Fujimura, a Christian artist who paints beautiful paintings, has written a book recently called Culture Care, in which he offers kind of an alternative to the culture war approach. And he says, perhaps a better approach to culture, a better approach than simply antagonism and warfare against it, is to seek to rehabilitate it, is to seek cultural rehabilitation by purified participation, by thoughtful, holy participation. And then there's a great line from the Serenity Prayer that's famous from Richard Niebuhr. This line from the Serenity Prayer that says, taking as Jesus did the sinful world as it is, not as we would have it, trusting that you will make all things right. I might add just one thing to that line of the Serenity Prayer. Yes, taking as Jesus did the sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that you will make all things right through me. Not just waiting for God to make all things right in the end when Jesus comes, but actually participating in God's activity of making things right by having a proper stance towards culture. So this is kind of the framework I want us to use as we think about what Judges is really saying regarding our relationship to culture. All right, now let's move on then to Judges 17, and let's get a little taste of what Judges is really concerned about. Now let me just remind you again that Judges 17 and 18 is what I refer to as the first epilogue, or the first conclusion to the book of Judges. And that it has a very special relationship with the second introduction, which is basically chapter 2 of the book. Now, this morning I introduced to you the concept of the law of the third generation. Do you remember that? The law of the third generation, where we were talking about the tendency toward the atrophy of faith in subsequent generations, such that there's a tendency for every third generation to fall away. And we saw that documented very clearly in the book of Judges, where it was actually stated. And let's turn there again, just to remind you, Judges chapter 2, I think it's beginning in verse 5, where you hear this principle articulated. No, it's verse 8, starting in verse 8. Joshua son of Nun, the servant of Yahweh, died at the age of 110. They buried him in the territory of his inheritance in Timnath-Heres in the hill country of Ephraim, north of Mount Gaash. That whole generation was also gathered to their ancestors. After them, another generation rose up who did not know Yahweh or the works that he had done for Israel. Right, so you have Joshua's generation who remained faithful as long as Joshua lived, so Joshua died. Then that second generation remains faithful, but then there's that third generation that arises, and shockingly, they do not know who Yahweh is or the works that he had done for Israel. Now, the only way I know to explain that is that there must have been a generation that didn't tell the story, right? There must have been a generation that didn't tell the story. I don't think this means that third generation didn't know the name Yahweh. I think they had some awareness of who he was, but I think what it means is they didn't have a relationship with Yahweh. And they didn't really have a clear awareness of just how good he had been to Israel. And so they weren't responding to Yahweh with the same gratitude that the previous generations were. And this, of course, eroded their relationship with Yahweh. And it also eroded their sense of need for him and their enthusiasm for the covenant that God had made with them. And so as I was talking about this morning, we've seen this happen as well in our own time, where you'll have a first generation that's converted to Christ from unbelief. And they are excited and enthusiastic because the contrast is so clear to them. The freedom is so fresh, and they feel so liberated. And they know why they're doing what they're doing. And then they have children, a second generation, that's kind of caught up in the momentum of their parents' enthusiasm, so they continue the traditions of attending church and giving money and so forth. But it's not as clear to them the underlying reason, the underlying rationale, and the enthusiasm is not as strong. And then that generation gives birth to a third generation that just doesn't get it. There's a disconnect somehow between what their parents are doing and the underlying rationale, and that's the generation that is particularly vulnerable to checking out, to going off the reservation, right? So that's the law of the third generation. Now, of course, it's a generalization. I don't mean to say that every third generation necessarily will fall away. It might be the second, it might be the fourth, it might be the fifth. But what the book of Judges teaches us is, if there isn't a concerted effort to prevent it, there does tend to be a generational atrophy of faith that makes this a problem. And this is precisely what the book of Judges is wrestling with, is that you get this repeated cycle of sin, servitude, supplication, and salvation over and over again precisely because you keep having these generations that don't get it and that fall right back into sin and that set the cycle for another round. Okay, that's precisely what drives this cycle in the book of Judges, is this law of the third generation. So that's what the second prologue is about. I think the first epilogue is about that same thing, except it gives us an example of it in narrative form. And that's what we're about to read. We're about to kind of see this principle in action in an interesting way. So let's just look at some of the aspects of this story. So there was a man from the hill country of Ephraim named Micah. He said to his mother, "The 1,100 pieces of silver taken from you, and that I heard you place a curse on, here's the silver, I took it." Then his mother said, "My son, may be blessed by Yahweh." He returned the 1,100 pieces of silver to his mother, and his mother said, "I personally consecrate the silver to Yahweh for my son's benefit, to make a carved image and a silver idol. I will give it back to you." So he returned the silver to his mother, and she took 5 pounds of silver and gave it to a silversmith. He made it into a carved image and a silver idol, and it was in Micah's house. Okay, let's just stop there for a moment and let's notice some things. Okay, so here we have a story about a son who steals money from his mother. Right? Not a promising beginning at all. Well, she apparently utters a curse regarding this missing money, and he goes, "I better come clean." And so he confesses to his mother that he took the 1,100 pieces of silver, probably a pretty sizable amount. So he gives it back to her, and she says, "What a good son." Right? And she does 2 interesting things here that are very hard to reconcile. On the one hand, she says, "I'm going to consecrate this money to the Lord. I'm going to consecrate this money to Yahweh," which I would think means that she's going to take all of it and put it in the collection of the temple. Right? But what does she do? She takes a significant portion of it and gives it to a silversmith to do what? To make an idol. Now, how is that consecrating silver to the Lord? You see, people's ideas about what it means to serve Yahweh, to consecrate Him, is very messed up, obviously, right? So she makes this idol and then gives it to Micah. And Micah creates a shrine for it in his house and appoints his own son as priest over that shrine. Now, if there's one way to guarantee that you'll always get along with the preacher, is to make your own son the preacher, right? So this is clearly a situation where Micah is never going to have to worry about seriously being confronted or being challenged, because he's controlling the whole spiritual situation, isn't he? And this continues to be the case. So, not a promising start at all for this story, but you can kind of see the family issues at work. Now, in verse 7, we're told that there was a young man, a Levite from Bethlehem in Judah. And by the way, I want to let you know that it's very interesting that in both this epilogue and the second epilogue, there are 2 towns. Well, Bethlehem is mentioned in both of them. And I think it's very interesting because one of the things the book of Judges very clearly does is it anticipates David. And one of the ways in which it anticipates David is with its references to places that are significant for David, particularly Bethlehem, the place where he was born. So you can see that Bethlehem is going to be important in both of these final stories, and that's not accidental. Not so. There was a young man, a Levite from Bethlehem in Judah, who was staying with the clan of Judah. The man left the town of Bethlehem in Judah to stay wherever he could find place. On his way, he came to Micah's home to help him to Ephraim. Where do you come from? Micah asked him. He answered, I'm a Levite from Bethlehem in Judah, and I'm going to stay wherever I can find a place. Micah replied, stay with me, and be my father and priest, and I will give you 4 ounces of silver a year, along with your clothing and provisions. So the Levite went and agreed to stay with the man, and the young man became like one of his sons. Micah consecrated the Levite, and the young man became his priest, and lived in Micah's house. Then Micah said, now I know that Yahweh will be good to me, because the Levite has become my priest. Okay, let's get this straight. So a Levite from Bethlehem is traveling along. He comes to Micah's house. Micah extends him this invitation. He accepts it. Why wouldn't he, right? I mean, his provisions are going to be given him. And Micah is now pleased because a Levite is serving him as priest. Clearly, Micah knows at least enough of the Torah to know that priests ought to come from what tribe? The tribe of Levi. That wasn't a big concern before, but hey, all the better if it can be legitimate, right? Now, this is remarkable to me. Here we are at an idolatrous shrine in Micah's house, and he's overjoyed that he has a Levite as a priest. Forget the fact that it's an idolatrous shrine. You see what happens? When you know just enough Torah to get yourself in trouble. You know just enough Scripture to care about things that don't really matter, and there are much bigger fish to fry, like the fact that you're worshiping an idol. What was it Jesus said about straining a gnat and swallowing a camel? We can get so bogged down in theological minutiae that we have completely forgotten the fact how far removed we are from the heart of God. And don't think that our children don't notice that. They do. And it sends them fleeing in the other direction, and can you blame them? Now, we kind of shift scenes for a moment from Micah's house to the tribe of Dan. Now, the tribe of Dan had an allotment of territory that was situated somewhere around the region of Judah. But they'd had no success whatsoever in dislodging the inhabitants there, and so they'd been pretty well confined to the hill country and able to come down into the valley. So Dan, now keep in mind that this was the allotment that was given to Dan by Moses, by Lot, by Yahweh. This is what they were given. This was a gracious gift of Yahweh to them. But it proved too difficult. It proved too difficult a gift to accept, too difficult a gift to maintain. And so Dan decides to abandon the land that Yahweh apportioned them by lot and to set off and look for a territory that is easier to take over. So what they do is they send some spies to scout out land to the north. And as these spies make their way through the land to try to find a place for the tribe of Dan to settle, they come upon Micah's house and they recognize the accent of this Levite that lives there because he's also from the same general vicinity that they are. So apparently back in ancient Israel, there were dialects in Hebrew. And the northerners could discern the southerners and the southerners from the northerners. Imagine that. There's a lot of interesting analogies between Israel and our own country, and one is that they also had a Mason-Dixon line, and that the southerners did speak differently from the northerners, and in one place in the book of Judges, that difference proved lethal, because the northerners apparently could not pronounce the sh sound, right? The sibilant and the shibboleth, remember that story? Yeah, we'll talk about that when we talk about Jeff, but anyway, they recognize his accent and say, well, what are you doing here? He says, oh, well, I left Bethlehem and I was kind of wondering about looking for a place, and Micah made this great offer to me. And they said, we require a reward for us, and let us know if our venture will be successful. And of course he tells them it will. So they go on up north. They find this little place called Laish. It's an isolated town. They don't have an alliance with anybody, and they're peace-loving people, and they say, this is the spot. So they go back, they report on their findings, and then a large contingency from Dan goes up in order to take this city. On the way, they stop by Micah's house, and they steal his idol, and they take it with them. Now that is kind of ironic, isn't it? Because this whole shrine started out with Micah stealing the silver from his mom, and now it's being stolen from him. And the Levites catches them in the act and says, "What are you doing?" And he said, "You know what? Your best option is to come with us and to serve us as priests. I mean, after all, which is better, to be the priest for a single family or to be a priest for an entire tribe?" And of course, the Levite sees dollar signs. He's rather mercenary about his ministry. And so he goes with the tribe of Dan on up, and he begins to serve them. Micah, of course, attempts to stop this by pulling all together the men in his house, but he doesn't have nearly enough fighting force to prevent it. So he gives up, and On-Dan goes up to Lachish, and they destroy this town that wasn't even slated for destruction, and they establish themselves a new territory to the far north at what we now know as Tel Dan. Now this is interesting because at Dan, guess what they did? At Dan, they set up this shrine and this idolatrous altar that Micah had made. And this story is really giving us the origins of the story of that idolatrous shrine that first becomes famous during the reign of Jeroboam, when he puts a golden calf up at Dan and a golden calf down at Bethel. Do you remember that? What I'm wanting to show you here is that this book is trying to tell us that these little missteps that Israel made way back in the period of the Judges grew and grew and grew until they had disastrous consequences for the entire nation. This little shrine that used to be just in Micah's house eventually became one of two national shrines for northern Israel, a national shrine that led to their demise and their being taken away into Assyrian captivity. And it started here. But here's the kicker. Here's the surprise in the story that catches me every time. Look at verse 30 and 31 of Judges chapter 18. It says, "The Danites set up the carved image for themselves." And then it tells us something that we've not heard before. Up to this point in the story, this Levite has remained completely anonymous. We've had no idea who he is. It's just some unnamed Levite who first serves Micah and then serves the tribe of Dan. But finally, at the end of the story, the author tells us who he is. You'll probably be surprised. The Danites set up the carved image for themselves. Jonathan, son of Gershom, son of Moses, and his sons were priests for the Danite tribe until the time of the exile from the land. So they set up for themselves Micah's carved image that he had made, and it was there as long as the house of God was in Shiloh. Who was that Levite who served at that idolatrous shrine? It was Jonathan, son of Gershom, son of Moses. Could you have ever imagined that Moses' grandson would be serving as a priest at an idolatrous shrine? Not even Moses is exempt from the law of the third generation. God has no grandchildren. Right? Every generation has to be a first generation when it comes to a relationship with Yahweh. So you can see how that by underscoring the identity of the priest and by stating that to the very end of the story, the first epilogue reinforces what the second prologue was saying. The law of the third generation is a very real dynamic at work in Israel at this time, such that even Moses' grandson is serving as a priest at an idolatrous shrine. That's a sobering reality, isn't it? That's just how far removed one generation can become. So, that's the story. And of course, this map just gives you kind of an idea of their migration. They camp at Kiryat Yarim, and then they go up to Ephraim, right around where Micah's house was, and then from there up to Lachish, as you can see there. And that's where they knock out Lachish and establish their new digs. Now, I want you to make an interesting connection Now that we've talked about the second prologue and the first epilogue, let's go back now and talk about the first prologue and the second epilogue, and how they're related in a similar way. And I want to start by noting a connection between something that is said in chapter 1, verses 1 and 2 of Judges, and something that is said in chapter 20, verse 18, that kind of helps us establish this connection. So the book of Judges begins, after the death of Joshua, the Israelites inquired of Yahweh, who will be the first to fight for us against the Canaanites? Yahweh answered, Judah is to go. I have handed the land over to him. So the tribe of Judah is singled out immediately in the book of Judges as the tribe that will provide leadership as Israel settles the land. And now I want you to look at what happens in chapter 20, verse 18. And I'm going to explain this in a minute. But just notice how similar the language is here. Because chapter 20 is describing the civil war that breaks out within Israel when all the other tribes go to war against the tribe of Benjamin. Now, why they did that, I'll tell you in a minute. But this just says this. All the Israelites from Dan to Beersheba and from the land of Gilead came out, and the community assembled as one body before Yahweh at Mizpah. The leaders of all the people and of all the tribes of Israel present themselves in the assembly of God's people, 400,000 armed foot soldiers. The Benjamites heard that the Israelites had gone up to Mizpah. The Israelites asked, tell us, how did this evil happen? And then the Levite tells the story. But when they actually go to war in verse 18, it's interesting to see what they say. Beginning in verse 17 of Judges 20, it says, the Israelites, apart from Benjamin, mobilized 400,000 armed men, every one an experienced warrior. They set out, went to Bethel, and inquired of God. The Israelites asked, who is to go first to fight for us against the Benjamites? Yahweh answered, Judah will be the first. So what was said at the very beginning of the book regarding their fight against the Canaanites is now said at the very end. The sad reality is that Israel's primary task has been forgotten, and she has now turned her weapons on herself. And that's really the tragedy of when we lose sight of what it is that God has primarily given us to do. Is that when we forget who our real enemy is, when we forget about the spiritual forces that we're really supposed to be attacking, we start attacking each other. It reminds me of a story that I heard a preacher tell one time, and it's always stuck with me. He talked about the time that he and his brothers went on a fishing trip over a weekend. And all they had was just a really small, cramped camper, but they figured it would be okay because they weren't going to be spending a lot of time in the camper. They were going to be outdoors fishing, right? So they hook it up and they get in their SUV and they head off to a great fishing location not far from them, and they spend the weekend. Well, apparently they didn't check the weather forecast because it rained all weekend. I mean, thunderstorm rain all weekend. So they couldn't go out and fish. So what did they wind up doing? Well, they wound up having to stay together in that tiny little camper, constantly getting in each other's way. Now, that was okay for the first day, but by the morning of the second day, they were really starting to get on each other's nerves. Right? As you can imagine. And by the middle of that day, they were at each other's throats. And they finally just decided to call it off and go on home. But he